Welcome back to Kimchi Studios. Today I'm going to be showing you how I went about designing the Metaquest VR controller holster. That's right, the one and only, the original. You can see it's holding my smartphone and it holds the Metaquest controllers just right. And you can see that it has belt slots here, so you can put pretty large size belts through it and secure it on you while you're gaming or sculpting in VR. And it looks pretty cool on your desk. It fits the Oculus Rift 1, the Metaquest 2, and as far as I know, the Metaquest 3. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and check out that video. Today I'll be explaining to you how I went about coming up with this concept. I think that's equally important as to the overall design process. Now, the disclaimer is going to be this. There's nothing that I can do to hold your hand and make this your ultimate go-to guide. It's going to take lots of your own personal time and your own blood, sweat, and tears. There's no do-it-all program. There's no one solution for anything in life in general. So you're gonna have to go out there and find a program that you like. Now, if you're interested in the more precision-based modeling software, CAD software, I'm gonna show you how I designed this guy using FreeCAD. And the reason why I'm putting out this video is because I'm not a trained CAD designer. I'm not a 3D modeler. I didn't go to school for that. I went to school for other things, and I had a completely different career, but I've always wanted to make things, and I saw that 3D printing provided an excellent opportunity to print things like this and really see if my ideas were worth anything, and I found out that they are, and I guarantee that your ideas are worth something too. So definitely check the links in the description if you need the tools, such as this Elegoo printer or other printers that I recommend here on this channel. I got the filaments listed, and everything that you need to get started is also in other videos here on this channel. So definitely check out everything that I have to offer. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the nuts and bolts. I want to explain to you really quickly and briefly how I come up with concepts. Now, this is going to sound a little bit weird, and this is going to probably not be that popular, but I really wanted to put this video out there for at least one of you that's going to listen to the whole thing. So here it is. And I'm going to do this without a script. For many, many years, ever since I was little, I had the desire to create things, but I didn't really have a mentor or the confidence to do it. And it wasn't until my mid-30s that I really started to explore, what my capabilities were and to explore the tools that were currently out there at the time. 3D printing was just starting to kind of catch on. It was still, early adoption phase, and I would argue that it still is, but I saw that as, my chance. So I was working in Asia. I was busy all day, every day, and on weekends and nights, but I had a little bit of free time in between appointments. So I bought a notebook and a pencil from eMart, and I would sit in my car and I would look up at the clouds and I would start to desire a concept. Like, I had no idea what I wanted to make. Ever since I was young, I wanted to make, like go-karts, and I would sketch those out. And I had an idea for a paper roll. It was like a jet simulator video game where you would shoot a BB gun at an animated pre-drawn paper thing that would roll past you, and it would be an animation of the thing flying around. And you try to shoot the different enemy airplanes. And so I had these ideas, but I didn't understand mechanics or anything like that. So I was sitting in my car and I was waiting for my next appointment, and I really, really wanted to understand how to come up with concepts, but I knew that that wasn't my strong point. Like, logical based thinking is not my strong point. I would say I have logic, but I don't approach it, like in that way. Like, well, this is the option. That's not how I approach things. Now I understand that I'm more of a creative brained individual. So if you are a creative brained individual and you're looking to design things like this, please listen. So I was sitting in my car. I thought of, things that were around my immediate workspace. So I was a teacher, and I would go into, classrooms, and I had a classroom in our place of business at the time. We had a language school, so we had these whiteboards, and I immediately thought of, what is really annoying? And I thought of erasing the boards, the whiteboards. And then I immediately thought of this lightweight, cheap, plastic-made automatic eraser. And the funny thing is, within a few months of coming up with that concept, we moved into a place that had a chalkboard automatic eraser that worked pretty similarly. It was on a chain at the bottom. You push the button, it had a bunch of water, and it would just wipe the whole thing. My idea was very similar, but it was a little different. It had sensors that would detect, if a kid put his finger on the board, and then it would stop, and, stuff like that. So this was before I even started coding or anything like that. And you can check out those cringe tutorials that I have. It's got good information, but I've now switched to 3D printing. So I came up with that concept and I drew it out all in like one go. Like, it was amazing. I've never done that in my life. I don't understand gears or mechanics, but I just like started drawing what I was seeing with my mind. It's kind of like an out of body experience where you have this concept and it flashes, and like you see the concept, you're in the concept. Like, it is all that you are experiencing at that moment. Like, you don't have a body. And then you draw it on the paper and you don't think about it. You're just drawing it and then you're labeling it. And then when it's done, you take a look at it. That's what I experienced. And after that, I started trying to do it with other things. I would look at things around the house or the workplace or outside and really try to understand how they work. I knew my limitations, but it didn't scare me. I didn't see that as a limitation. Like, my lack of knowledge was kind of the exciting part. The known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. That was like my motivation. So fast forward to today, that is exactly how I came up with the Chameleon holster. This is no joke. Of, a year ago, I was sitting in the living room and I was thinking, I want to come up with something cute, something that's kind of a step up from what I was doing before. I had already invented a holster for the Metaquest 2 controllers. I thought that was so awesome. That was my first CAD design ever. I had no idea what I was doing. And FreeCAD was a little bit not as sophisticated as it is now. This was a couple years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago. And I came up with that concept and it turned out amazing. The only problem was it was 2 pieces that you had to screw together. So that was kind of annoying, but I wanted like one piece. I wanted it to look cute, kind of like a cartoon. And I imagined looking down, like what would be looking back up at me. And I like emptied my mind. And then I had the concept like that. And I had this chameleon thing that would just, the tongue shot out and grab the controllers down, around my crotch. But this thing would be, in front of me. I thought really of the older generation controllers. What is something that they all have in common? What is something that they seem to have going on that hasn't really changed over the years? And you can see this is the original Oculus Rift CV1. Okay, this is the original Oculus Rift. I still have it. I still use it. I'm starting to use the Metaquest 2 more and more, especially since I've designed 2 holsters for it. And if you'd like me to show you the Metaquest 3, you can go ahead and subscribe to my Patreon and share this video with all your friends. That's how that works. So I saw these and they both, this was shaped differently. This wouldn't work in my old holster. They're different size, they're different angles, they're different construction. But the one thing that they do have in common is the handle, okay? The handles fit pretty much the same. Now, there are a little bit difference, in their diameter and stuff like that, but overall, it's pretty much the same concept. And the Metaquest 3, I believe, is almost pretty much the same as Metaquest 2, so it's a sure bet. So that's how I came up with that concept, and I immediately started mulling it over. So what I do, after I get the initial concept, and it's like, I am that concept. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, if you have a dream, right? You don't have like a body, like you're just like in the dream. That's what it's like. I know I'm getting off on a tangent, but I want you to think of it this way. If you think you're not creatively inclined, you're not a creative individual, what do you think a dream is? Every time that you dream, your brain is coming up with an elaborate creative painting, basically, in real time. You're coming up with an animation and you interact with that animation. That's how I approach my concept. So I have the concept and then it's like a flash, like I'm in it. And then I immediately get down to like the small details. So like if I were to come up with this concept of paper towel, if I was the first one to come up with this, you can see that there's little, dots and little grooves in here that are designed to absorb the moisture or something, like little pockets, right? So I would imagine myself, I'm not the first one to talk about it like this. Some people have said, imagine yourself as a little fly, like walking around. That's kind of what it is. Like you're like a little, like you're like flying along the surface and you can kind of like see it and feel it. And then you see how it interacts. So if I was imagining this paper towel, I would imagine how it would absorb the water and how the water would go through and absorb into each little pocket. Are those pockets, like what shape would they have to be? Where would the water travel? That's what it is. It's like how it's traveled, like how things move along and interact. Everything's like mechanical, okay? And so I would break it down even further that, clearly I'm not, a machinist or whatever, but it's all just shapes. Like that's the main message that I want to give you is you can come up with shapes, right? And you have dreams, which are very elaborate creative paintings, okay, that are changing in real time. You can come up with shapes, and a lot of artists will break down drawing and painting into shapes and tones and shades like that. That sort of mindset is what has worked for me, and that's how I'm able to come up with concepts over and over and over again. And this is also the case for when I'm creating a sculpture or something like that. I imagine, like my ghost kitty, I imagine that concept, and then I actually went on the internet and I looked for something that kind of already existed because I wanted to see exactly how it should look. So there was a reference for that one. But I had this idea of the tail being held in retention by the cloud that it sat on. And it's a very simple thing, but I just imagined the different shapes interacting together.